Welcome, everyone, to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. Thank you so much for listening. We wrap up 2024 with an all-Traina Thoughts edition of the pod with my buddy Sal Licata. A lot of you out there love the Traina Thoughts segment that Sal and I do every single week, so this entire episode will be an all-Traina Thoughts. We tape New Year's Eve. It's coming out on January 2nd, so you can look at this as sort of a 2024 wrap or a kickoff to 2025, whichever you prefer. If you want a full year in review type of pod, last week, the 5th annual SI Media podcast with Jimmy Traina year-end extravaganza with Peter Schrager and Andrew Perloff took place. So if you've missed that, go into the archives. Check that out. Also had some great guests in December to close out the year. Mike Tirico from NBC, Sean McDonough from ESPN, Brian Curtis from The Ringer, Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football, among those. So if you missed any of those, give them a listen. If you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. Again, huge year in review pod last week with Schrager and Perloff. And then right here now to kick off 2025, an all-Traina Thoughts edition with my buddy Sal Licata from WFAN. So let's get to it. All right here, right now on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. All right, joining me now for this all-Traina Thoughts edition of SI Media with Jimmy Traina. He joins me every week from WFAN Radio New York, SNY TV in New York, my buddy Sal Licata. Sal, how's it going?
You missed me so much last week that we had to give a all-Traina Thoughts this week, huh?
Exactly. I heard from a couple of people they missed your presence. I mean, I gave them like an hour and 45 with Schrager and Perloff, but they were like, where's Sal? So I don't know. It blows me away that people just keep listening and listening and listening. So
we appreciate that very much.
That is good. How was your
I was
Christmas?
Thinking, Christmas great, all that stuff, had fun. But I was thinking as we record this on New Year's Eve,
yeah,
you and I have hung out a couple of times, I think, on New Year's Eve. One of which we went to, was it Mohegan? We went to Mohegan on New Year's Eve once.
It had to be Mohegan because I never go to Foxwoods.
Okay, yeah. I was thinking maybe AC, but I don't think that we did that. AC was a different trip.
You and I did go to the Borgata once.
Right, but I think that was different. There was some show that we were watching.
That was when I said I got to watch the Magic Johnson Larry Bird documentary, and I fell asleep before it started.
I remember. That was like a stay over for, I don't know if we stayed a couple of nights or whatever, but that was fun. But New Year's Eve, I think we drove up New Year's Eve day, went to Mohegan and came back that night years ago.
I can't remember the last time I was in a casino. It's so depressing.
Yeah. I mean, I really can't remember. You're right, man. Life has... I used to go all the time. AC Mohegan used to be regular weekend trips.
Yeah. We used to decide at like 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night to go. Right. Drive there the 3 hours, stay up all night, and then come back at like 6 in the morning.
Yeah, well, that was kind of my point. Like, remember that those were fun. Like, hey, what are we doing on New Year's? Nothing. Let's just go out, nice steak dinner, go up to Mohegan and bed a little bit. Now, it's like people are like, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm going to be home watching my daughter and, listening to my wife.
This sounds like there's some issues going on. That's the thing. You want time off. You don't want to work. You want time off from work, but that means you're home.
Correct.
That does not mean sitting on the couch doing nothing.
People keep asking me, "Oh, how was Christmas? How was your, I'm like, honestly, like I hate to sound negative, but when I'm working, I want to be off, and when I'm off home, I wish I was back at work. I'm just never happy. I mean, that's the problem. There's got to be a better balance somewhere.
So Christmas wasn't great.
No, it was fun. We had a nice Christmas. Truthfully, like, look, it's stressful. It's a hassle. It's a pain in the ass driving to my mother's house, hanging out there, driving back late. But as a dad now of a 3.5-year-old who's finally like starting to really get excited about Santa and presents, that was where it's fun. So for the next 5, 6 years, hopefully it's going to be good.
I'm surprised to even hear you say that, so that's good.
Yeah, I got to admit it.
So did you drive from Jersey to Long Island and back all on Christmas Eve?
No, we went the Monday, we went the 23rd, drove to my mother's, and then came back late Christmas Eve night.
Okay.
Wasn't awful.
I was sick on Christmas Eve, so I missed the whole thing.
You didn't even go?
Didn't even go.
To your aunt's house where you normally go?
No, my parents.
Your parents on Christmas Eve, okay.
I missed the single greatest eating day of the year.
I mean, you must have been
I had food poisoning. I couldn't eat. I had food poisoning. on the 23rd. I mean, excuse me, on the 24th. On the 24th.
I
Yeah.
think everybody was getting, I don't know what was going on around here, but everybody was sick, it seemed.
Well, I was convinced I had food poisoning, and then I did see on the news sometime in the last couple of days, like the norovirus is going around.
Yeah.
So what's weird is, I mean, I started to feel it on the late night of the 23rd. Was incapacitated on the 24th.
Oh,
Woke up at 6 a.m. on the 25th and felt 100% like nothing happened.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Bizarre, man. That's been good.
Yeah.
So now, all right, this is fascinating to me because, as you said, it's the greatest day of the year. It's one day of the year for us. Like, that's it.
Right.
Christmas Day, Christmas Eve is like the
Right.
day.
Right.
What'd you do to make up for it? Did you go back and get some
So
food?
I I couldn't eat. The food was not an option. Eating was not
Oh,
an option that day. It ended up where I salvaged the day this way. During the day, one of the HBO channels was running a marathon of the final season of Curb. So I rewatched that entire thing and enjoyed it thoroughly.
okay.
And then at 8 o'clock, ABC had Home Alone on, which I was. And then I bet the under in the Hawaii Bowl, South Florida, San Jose State. The total was 66 and a half.
Wow.
It ended up 41-39 because the game went to 5 overtimes. The score at halftime was 21-10, and I had under 66 and a half.
And knowing you checked that as a win.
And the score at the end of regulation was 27-27. So that was worse than the food poisoning.
Did you check? Did you check it on your little sheet as a win at halftime? Oh, I know you.
I think what happened was I went to bed so in addition to the issues that you have from food poisoning, what really fucked me up on Christmas Eve was I didn't sleep the night before. I was up the entire night. Did not get
God,
to
that's
because
a
I was
nightmare.
uncomfortable. So I was so dead. So like during that Curb marathon, I would doze off and on, but not like a straight through sleep. But Christmas Eve, I went to bed. I was in bed and sleeping by 10 p.m. And then I slept straight through without waking up once till 6 a.m. the next day and woke up and felt 100%. So I didn't even see what had happened. I checked my phone at 6 a.m. and saw the loss.
That's
So,
brutal.
yeah, so that was that. Tell me on Christmas Day, you were adamant you were not going to watch the NFL on Netflix. I know you were full of shit. So just tell me what happened.
I'm gonna take it a step further, and I was thinking about you. I was adamant. I was angry. I was frustrated. Christmas Eve, midway through the day, I'm like, "There's no game on to watch. I could use a game." So I don't know what my issue is exactly, but I started to long for a game on Christmas Eve, knowing that it wasn't there. It was annoying. And Christmas Day, the way that things shook out, well, we were supposed to go to in-laws, plans fell through there. So we were home, and I did end up watching. I wouldn't say I was not locked in, but I did bet the Steelers, of course. So I took that one on the chin. But I watched enough of the Chiefs Steelers to be into it. And you know what? I take it back. I do hate that the NFL does shove the games down our throat, but it's on me to watch it how I want to watch it. I like having it there if needed. You see what
See,
I'm
I don't
saying?
understand that comment. Shove the games down your throat. What does that mean? They had 2 games on
Monday,
Christmas.
Thursday, Wednesday, this day, that day, every
Yeah,
day.
that's
And
not.
yeah, but you got to remember too. I know that we're in the minority in that it is work for us. Like the way that I have to watch Jets and Giants, and I mean Jets and Giants, who are the two worst effing football teams that have been created for years. Like this has been going on for years. Every week it's the same garbage with these two teams. So there's a part of me that just wants out at times, especially when I'm off. But as the fan in me, and I'm not working, I don't need to talk about the Steelers and Chiefs necessarily, especially the day after. Then you enjoy it as a fan. So I like having the option with those games there. I just don't like having it so much so that it becomes like work to keep up with it.
Right. All right. So you bet the Steelers, you said.
Yeah. Did you bet that game? Well,
I did. I had the under.
yeah. Did you
So
hit that?
I went 2-0
Okay.
on Christmas Day. I had the under in that, and then I had over. I think it was like over 26 points for the Ravens. But I will say, to sort of piggyback on what you said, I watched all of the Chiefs Steelers first half. Watched most of the second half. Maybe the last few minutes I didn't watch. I barely watched the second game because that's when we sat down to eat on Christmas
Yeah.
Day. And then the game was obviously unwatchable because the Ravens blew them out.
Yeah, it was a
So,
non. If it were a better game, I might have checked it out. Did
like
you?
I left my aunt's house after the halftime show. Like I didn't
Okay.
even watch the second half because the game was unwatchable.
Well, I was giving you my next question because I
Yeah.
was more locked into the halftime show, and I don't know why. Like, it wasn't like I was necessarily care about Beyonce, but I happened to be there. It was on. I was like, all right, let me see it. And then I couldn't really look away from it. I was trying to figure out what was going on. Did you? Are you a Beyonce fan? You watched that? I'm assuming.
I'm sort of like indifferent. I mean, I watched it. I didn't
Yeah.
understand it. Didn't enjoy it. Didn't like. Here's my thing. I think we've talked about this. Like when it comes to Taylor Swift, I don't really. I just care about the music. Like
Right.
if you sing songs I like, I'm into you. It's that I'm not looking for
Right.
anything else. I'm not really a like. Okay, yeah, everyone loves single ladies. I'm crazy in love with Jay-Z, but like that's about it for me. Like I didn't know anything she played. I mean, I knew Jolene because it's not her song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't know, she brought
Well,
out
she
the
didn't.
one guy, I didn't know who it was. Then she brought out Post Malone. Like it's not
Yeah.
that's not for like it just didn't do anything for me. I was
She.
bored out of my
She.
mind.
She didn't play the hits. I mean, I thought it was okay. I was just what my thing is like. So is this now what Netflix is going to be doing, making it like the Super Bowl? It felt like that halftime show went on forever. Like,
Well, here's the thing. More people watch the halftime show than the games. The
okay, but
games the games got like 24, 25 million viewers. She got 27 million viewers.
right, but is that now in like where people could go back and watch it, on demand, so to speak, or whatever, just on the streaming
I
Netflix?
read something that like they were gonna leave her halftime up show for like 3 hours or something like that. Or
I
I
thought I
don't
saw it the
maybe.
other day, still
Oh,
up. It
so
was
maybe
like,
it's on. Maybe you can watch it anytime. I'm not sure.
and it had like the whole name, the Beyonce Bowl.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did nothing for me.
I
Like,
liked when she had her daughter come out and dance with. Did you notice that?
yeah, I was like, no, because I watched
Why?
it and someone's like, I think that's her daughter, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't know if she's
It
telling
was
me. I just
it was fine. I'm not gonna knock it or get into, but like, so it was just like this big. They tried to make it like it was a Super Bowl feel, not just the halftime show.
well,
That yes, but like the whole day. I didn't get that.
right, but you have to understand, and I've said this a billion times. They have zero interest in me and you.
Yeah,
They
right.
want the
Well,
fringe fan. They want the non-fan, the casual fan, the fringe fan. The fan like you and I, we're gonna watch the game no matter what. Doesn't matter who the halftime show is.
then they won.
Right. Well, they always win. That's why they're the NFL. Now, I mean, listen, the
Well,
rating is not. The rating wasn't great. Like they had way more viewers on Christmas last year on network TV. It wasn't
right,
like Netflix came in and set the world on fire with the ratings. That was far from the case.
right.
But more people watched her than the game. So that tells you all you need to know about, what people are interested in.
How about the bitching from people in the NBA or the NBA fan? Like, I found that so bizarre that NBA fans and like players, I guess, were saying, "Oh, Christmas Day is our day."
Right.
Oh, no, it's not. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, I can't even take that seriously. Like that's like me trying to say like, oh, I have close to the same amount of money as Oprah. Like it's you're not even in the same. It's not a thing. It's not a competition. It's not even a thing.
right,
One's getting 25 million and one's getting 5 million. It's not there's no
right.
competition. There's no battle. There's no who owns nothing. Like it's not a thing that exists. It's a fake thing.
I do think it's funny though with the babe. I'm on camera here. my wife. What? Jeez, sorry.
The
We gotta
people
take
would
that.
and people
Babe.
people would want that very badly.
Oh my God, come here. Say hi to Uncle Jimmy. Hi, Uncle Jimmy.
Look at her.
Hi, can you
Say
say
hi.
who do we root for in football? Let's go, Daddy's bets. Let's go, Daddy's bets.
Oh wow, that's good job.
Because we have who do we root for in baseball?
Say let's go Yankees. Let's go Yankees.
No. Let's go. Go ahead. Who are we for in baseball?
Say, let's go Yankees.
Who are we for in hockey? Who do we for in football?
That's like
Daddy's bets.
Daddy's
Okay, give me a
bets.
kiss goodbye.
What an appearance. What an appearance.
Go by mommy. Okay, we got it. Babe,
See,
you got to take her here. Go by mommy, Sammy.
She's all that age. They're all about the streaming. She's like, what's Fox and CBS? Just give me Netflix. And we don't want Netflix. She wants you. Look at this.
I couldn't give her a. Sammy, come on.
Don't push her out of the way.
Yeah. Okay, you just got to sit here and be quiet as we do this.
Yeah, she'll let her learn about the podcasting business.
No, we're not gonna put. We can't put on music. Okay.
Oh, she wants music.
Yeah,
Is she like Beyonce?
She's been listening to the Chipmunks album.
Chipmunks.
Go by mommy. She'll get you the Muppet figures. Yes. Okay. Bye.
That was a great cameo. Great cameo.
Yeah. I knew that was going to happen because my wife's got to get ready to go out right now. She's got something to do, so I'm kind of on daddy duty. But I left her downstairs. She comes up.
This is Daddy Diddy doing the podcast. I love it. That was a good cameo. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes during the playoffs, which players are going off and which ones are ice cold. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. With their pick'em game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats, i.e. yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and more. Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep writing with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you want. Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose. What I'm looking at for this week with Underdog is simple. A lot of players playing for incentives. You have wide receivers who need a certain amount of catches, running backs who need a certain amount of yards. I'm looking at those players, and that's where I'm going to go for a lot of higher plays on Underdog. Underdog is the best place to play Pick'em. Download the app, sign up with the promo code Sports Illustrated, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code Sports Illustrated. Must be 18 years or older, 19 years or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 years or older in Colorado for some games, 21 years or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado for some games. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. I have to say, too, in transitioning, the passing of Greg Gumbel needs to be mentioned because I couldn't believe that one. Sal broke that news to me. And, you know, we live in this time now where when someone passes, a celebrity or, you know, public figure, we all do it where we jump on Twitter or Instagram and we sort of make it about ourselves. And I did not want to do that, but I have to mention, like, Greg Gumbel had one of the most memorable appearances on this podcast because Greg came on. I had never had any interaction with him, invited him to come on. He came on. And when I have someone on who's never been on before, sometimes it's rough and sometimes it's fine, but it always takes a few minutes to feel out, like, you know, how far I can push it with being funny or trying to be funny. And then do they get my humor? Do they get the flow? Like, where I'm not just trying to do question, answer. Let's have a conversation. And when Greg Gumbel came on, I felt like he had been on a million times. It was very natural. We had a great conversation. And at some point during the conversation, this was about maybe 3 years ago when the contracts for the NFL announcers were going crazy and everyone was getting all that money after Romo signed a monster deal with CBS, and then Troy got paid and Joe Buck got paid and everybody got paid. And Greg said on the podcast that the people doing the games are not responsible for one viewer. And that comment got picked up everywhere, everywhere. It became a big thing. So, if this podcast ended today and someone said, give me the 5 most memorable moments or 10 most memorable moments, like I would absolutely put that Greg Gumbel podcast in the mix. So it was when I saw that news, he didn't do the NCAA tournament in 2024. He hosts that every year on CBS, and he didn't do it this year. So, you knew something was up, but it was sort of like an out of sight, out of mind thing. I don't think anyone was staying on top of like what was going on with Greg Gumbel because he had given up the NFL a couple of years ago. So 78 years old. That news was one where you didn't realize too. I think at the time until afterwards, when CBS has done a phenomenal job, by the way, with videos and tributes. If anyone hasn't seen them, you can go on like CBS's NFL Twitter or CBS Sports Twitter. They've had some great look backs and compilations of Greg Gumbel's career. He was one where you realize after the fact, like, oh my God, like what a career. And in terms of you, just to say, in terms of purposes for you as a fan host, he worked at WFAN, which I don't think a lot of people knew.
And I knew a little bit about him because, obviously, outside from the obvious, but Steve Summers, I think, used to work with both the Gumbel brothers in LA, if I'm not mistaken. So I would hear stories a lot of times behind the scenes. But, I mean, there are certain voices that you hear that bring you back to childhood or just transcend your sports world. He was one. I mean, to me, that's the greatest compliment that I could pay him. Not only do I think he was a great broadcaster, but I hear his voice and I feel March Madness. I hear his voice and I feel Football Sunday. I loved him. It was him and Sims, right? Weren't they doing? Yeah. So I love those two guys together. To me, he was a legendary, great broadcaster, and I didn't even know anything was up. And then I saw the news, and I texted you obviously, but it's sad. 78's not a bad number, but it's sad to see that he was sick and.
Do you remember him working at MSG here in New York?
I do.
It was when the Yankees were on MSG. I remember it vaguely, but I remember it.
So do you remember him at Fan too, or no?
That I don't remember because I think that was right when the Fan started, and he did mornings. He was doing morning drive at WFAN.
Yeah, I was too young for that. I don't recall. I mean, maybe I did watch or listen to him on MSG with the Yankees, but I just don't remember him. Yeah. But no, I don't recall that off the top of my head.
Yeah. I mean, people I think would be surprised. I mean, we talk about the Fan so much in terms of what it meant to us as a child, as kids growing up with Mike and the Mad Dog, and you obviously work there now. But like when they first started, Jim Lampley was a guy who hosted on the Fan, and there was someone else in those early days, like a national figure. But yeah, Greg Gumbel did the Fan, MSG, CBS, NBC, ESPN. He was a old school Sports Center.
I'm trying to think of who the hell it was. I know what you're saying, and I know the history of it. But there are a lot of those national names, and then even now, like when you think about it, Ian Eagle, was at the Fan. Kevin Burkhardt. I mean, you're talking about two of the premier play-by-play guys in the game. So Gumbel was obviously an original.
Absolutely. So we had to mention that.
Yep.
All right. I figured here, since we're wrapping up the year, but we're also wrapping up December, we need to read our Apple reviews. Now, I will say, just from glancing at them, people are obsessed with the fact that you don't follow college football, which we have addressed already. So if this comes up, I'm not going to like spend a ton of time on it.
Now, but today, because there's no other games on, I will, and they're playoff games, I'll try to pay more attention to it. And I did watch a little bit of Colorado, but I don't know.
You watched that game? That was a disaster.
Yeah, well, that's why. Well, I want to see Shedeur Sanders. I got to go back and watch some Cam Ward highlights. But I also, the bowl games with these guys not playing in it, the coaching stuff, the transfers, the NIL. I want to get back into it, at least for a little bit, and I've had a hard time. But
yeah, they killed the bowls. Yeah, because of the portal. But all right, let's read these reviews and then get everybody out of here for 2024. All right. We've got NWA 870. Hi, Jimmy. Continue to enjoy the pod. Have been a listener for over 4 years. Oh, I like that. Just an observation, but when thinking about the recent Jim Nantz and Tony Romo interview, I felt as if Tony was sort of out to lunch. He just rambles on into the wilderness. I don't mind Tony, but man, is he ever a rough one-on-one interview? I didn't know where he was going half the time, just sharing how I thought he came across. Jim, as always, is a Hall of Famer. Anyway, think you or Sal are on a roll. Keep up the great work. I had gotten a few comments about this where people thought Romo wasn't into it, or Romo didn't really feel like it looked like he wanted to be on. I didn't get that impression at all. And just so people have some backstory on this, Tony wanted to do it. I saw Tony in person over the summer. Said, I'd love to have you on. He said, I would love to do it. You've been good to me. Would love to come on. He's like, let me come on with Jim. So the thought that like he didn't want to do it or wasn't into it, and I never felt that. I think his personality might be where, first of all, you have to understand they're on together. And we're on Zoom.
It's a
So
tough
it's sort
spot.
of like, I've got to navigate it where I sort of address who I want to speak, and you don't want people talking over to each other. So that could have been a factor. But I got a couple of comments like that, and I didn't get it all because I thought he was fine. But I don't know. But go back and listen if you missed it, and we'll see how it goes. All right.
By the way, we could listen to the Gumbel one too. I'm assuming that's archived.
Yes, someone on Twitter had asked me for it. I sent them the link. But
Okay.
yeah, if you just Google Greg Gumbel SI Media podcast, it'll come up. All right. Glass Boro Boy. Here we go. Brady and Jimmy love the weekly pods. Just finished the episode with Brian Curtis from The Ringer and have one comment regarding your discussion regarding Tom Brady. Your discussion mentioned that he was announcing the Super Bowl this year, and was he ready? To me, the NFC Championship game is 10 times bigger concern since there are so many Super Bowl parties. Not many people have the volume up to actually listen to the game. Secondly, with all your Stern Show references, why not bring Baba Booey, Richard, or JD for a train of thought segment with Sal? All right. I would love to have any Stern person on the show, but I don't think they're allowed to do outside interviews. So that's why so it's that simple. They all know I would love to have them on. I interviewed Baba Booey once, way back before this podcast, like back in the Hot Clicks days when his book came out, and he was great. But yeah, I mean, I would love to have Gary Delabate or JD on the pod, but I don't think they're allowed to sort of do outside interviews. As for Brady and the Super Bowl, I get your point, but listen, 50 million people are going to watch the NFC Championship game. 110 million people are going to watch the Super Bowl. Yes, maybe people aren't locked in because of Super Bowl parties, but he's getting paid $375 million. The Super Bowl is a big deal. The NFC Championship game is super important. I mean, if he flops in that game, he's going to get destroyed like there's no tomorrow. But
They've got to be nervous at this point, and I think it's getting worse because now you're starting to hear the chirping, and you could see and hear Brady thinking too much. He's got to just let it fly. Hey, this is what happens when you have a rookie broadcaster. But the closer we get to the bigger games, the more talk you're hearing, the more pressure. Not that he can't handle the pressure, obviously, but he's not a player. He's not quarterbacking the Super Bowl. That we know he can handle. Doing the color commentating for the Super Bowl, I mean, that's a different question.
I think you said it really, really, really well. And all year, I've been looking for the expression to try to explain it. You can hear him thinking. That's really what it comes. It doesn't seem like he's 100% loose. It feels like he's got some handcuffs on himself. I don't think he's bad. Like, people are making it way worse than it is. He's not bad, but he's not great. So that's a problem because you want someone in that position to be great. In fairness to him, he's done 15, 16 games in his entire career. But like you said, you can hear him thinking. It's the perfect expression. It feels like he wants to say stuff and he's holding back, or he's saying stuff to try to say it in that TV broadcaster way and not the real way. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, or being afraid to say the wrong thing, which you can't do. I mean, somebody's got to just get through him. And if he were thinking about every throw that he's got to make, like, you don't think, you just see it, you react. Boom. That's what you have to do as a broadcaster. Just talk. If you make a mistake or throw a pick, so be it. You'll recover. That's better to me than being tight and thinking too much.
And what's interesting about that is he was self-admittedly very nervous week one. Well, if he was nervous week one, he better wear a diaper for the NFC Championship game, because that's the game where he's going to have a ton of pressure. The Super Bowl is a different story from the standpoint of you have so many people who do not care at all about the NFL watching that game. I mean, the most people watching that game don't care about the NFL. But the NFC Championship game, he's going to be under a microscope like he's never faced in terms of broadcasting.
Did you hear the screw up that he had during the Packers Vikings when he couldn't remember who that the Packers beat the Vikings earlier?
Yeah, that
Okay.
doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me either, like the mistake itself,
Right.
but what it shows is that he's thinking and trying. To me, that
Right.
was a clear clip of where he's like, oh, who they beat. Like he's thinking
Right.
too much. Maybe he'll get better under pressure and just be like, you know what, F it.
So
Uh,
what's important to me, like if you make a mistake like that, I don't that mistakes are going to happen. Any single
yeah.
person who has a job is going to make a mistake. So Sunday night when Raheem Morris didn't call the timeout,
Oh God.
I was ready to go on Twitter and be like, listen, I love Tarico. Him and Collinsworth did not mention that in real time. Then there was a timeout, and then they got into how did he not call timeout? So I was like, okay, they got it. That to me is the important stuff. Is if Brady was doing that game, I want to hear Tom just bludgeon Raheem Morris in that situation. That's what you have to do. I mean,
Right.
Collinsworth took it easy a little bit, but at least they said, what is he doing? Why didn't he call timeout? That's the stuff that I want. I don't. If you make a mistake and say this team beat this team by I could. That's just a mistake.
Agreed. And I don't want to harp on him from the
Yeah,
mistake,
yeah,
but I think it's the thought process getting to that mistake. And then even when you do make, like, all he had to do was be like, I don't remember who the hell they beat. What's the difference? They're playing today. Like, there are ways where you can make it more natural. And I just feel like he's right now thinking
yeah,
too much. I hope it changes. I think it will change, though. I think it'll get better.
yeah. Well, playoffs will be very interesting. All right. SC David Law, excellent podcast. The guests are great. Love them all except the wrestling guys. But what really makes the podcast unique is the discussion with Sal at the end of each episode. Jimmy and Sal are the only two things I like about New York. Jimmy, thanks for the suggestion about the Michael Richards book. It's terrific. P.S. I was an extra in a bunch of Seinfeld episodes. For example, I'm the guy right next to George when he gives the Ovaltine speech instead of risk management. Look at that. Someone
That's
from
fantastic.
the Seinfeld show is listening to the podcast and enjoys our work.
They got to watch those
Love
episodes
that.
again and see where he is. That's great.
I love that. I love that. My favorite thing about that is that he liked the Michael Richards book because I don't like giving recommendations if people don't like things. So I'm glad.
I told you, I doubled down on
Yeah,
that. You recommended it to me. I
yeah,
couldn't love that more. That was a
yeah.
great book.
All right, Brad T4. Jimmy, are there any commentators you get really annoyed at? There are two for me. Brock Heward, who is very overdramatic/serious, gives way too much praise. There's always several players in the game that are one of the best somethings in the country. And Bob Wischusen, who treats every NHL regular season shot on goal like it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. Also, Joe Davis. Don't you think it sounds like he's trying to do a perfect announcer voice for a movie? He pronounces every word perfectly. He needs to relax and just speak normally. I don't. Listen, are there announcers who annoy me? Yes, it's a laundry list. I don't think you can get on the guy for speaking clearly. That seems like a little bit of a rough nitpick. I'm not a huge Joe Davis. Like, I don't think I ever got into this because I didn't want to deal with the blowback. I thought Joe Davis's call on that home run by Freddie Freeman, where he said, Freddie me Kirk, I thought it was awful because I thought one was just a complete apples and oranges thing. It was two totally different scenarios, but everyone was just going gaga like crazy over that call. So I laid low and didn't want to get in there and have people call me an asshole. But yeah, here's how you can figure out who I don't like. You want to know how to figure out who I don't like? Go through the guest list, see who hasn't been on the podcast. That's pretty much who I don't like. But like, I don't want to sit here and. I remember one time I wrote that Mark Schlereth was a cookie cutter analyst, which I still fully believe. And then he went on Pat McAfee's show and called me a turd, which I found highly amusing. And I would love for him to do that again. But he also said, I don't watch the games. That offended me. I don't care if you call me a turd. But it is weird now because like if you do criticize someone, I'll say this. I have someone who I have done nothing but praise. I mean, praise incessantly. And then recently I said something maybe not that 100% positive, and the person messages me. Well, where was I when I was,
Yeah.
I was going to say something.
Yeah, I want to know.
No, I can't say it because someone will be, when I was,
Yeah.
you know,
Praising him, right? I get it.
praising you. Yeah. So everyone in this business is so sensitive. But if I don't, here's what's funny about it. Like, I'll get shit on Twitter because, like, I always tweet about, like, let's say Mad Dog or Kevin Harlan or Joe Buck and Trey. So find out who I'm not tweeting about, and that's who I don't like. It's very easy to figure out. It's not a big mystery. All right. All right. Let's see. Pistol from Bristol. Love the Sean McDonough pod. When he did the Howard Cosell imitation about his father, Will, and the knockdown punch, I almost fell off my chair. You're on a great run with guests. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Amy Chapman. Love the Jimmy and Sal conversations, and Jimmy does a terrific job with some challenging guests. One request, bring back Jeff Passan to talk about baseball trades in the coming season. He was a great guest. I'll have Passan on again, like maybe right before the season for sure. This is not a time, though, for baseball guests right now in January. I don't want to read that one.
What, too negative?
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna like it.
Go ahead, hit me with it. It's okay.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to do this.
I don't care. Oh,
all right.
yeah.
If you say LB, and I don't know why they're leaving this review on Apple for the SI Media podcast, but LBJ 503 Sal. Please tell your honchos at WFAN that no one wants to hear Mike Francesa's 20-year-old son's NFL picks. Are we kidding with the content? What 20-year-old caller would you care about hearing from their viewpoint? Your listeners don't either. I don't know why that person's leaving that on a review for my podcast.
Because it's the one way that maybe he thinks I would hear it, because I'm not
Well,
going to see
it worked.
Well, what he's referring to is exactly. What he's referring to is we had a special holiday fun show with Francesa's kids, Harrison and Jack Francesa. I thought it was a fun 2 hours. We did some retro picks. I mean, what's the big deal? If you're that bothered by that, just don't, like, it's literally 2 hours of a 4-hour show in a 5-day work week that I should be off anyway. If you don't like it that much, I mean, what do you want me to tell you? You could turn the radio off.
It's one thing to not like it, but to leave a review on my Apple page, Jesus.
Well, I mean, I don't know why people would get bothered by that. I just thought it was a cool thing to do.
Yeah, like, just don't listen. All right. 80s Villager. Couldn't you have challenged Peter Schrager for smooching Aaron Rodgers' butt as much as he did? How about mentioning Jimmy Kimmel shutting Rodgers up by threatening to sue him for false accusations? Okay. So, first of all, if you think I'm going to sit here when I have Peter Schrager on to do like a fun end of the year podcast and get into Jimmy Kimmel and Aaron Rodgers, you're lost. Second of all, Peter Schrager is allowed to like Aaron Rodgers. I'm allowed to not like Aaron Rodgers. He's allowed to like Aaron Rodgers. Like, challenge him for what? Like, I'm going to start arguing. I don't have to challenge anything. The Aaron Rodgers record speaks for itself. Look at the Jets season. There's nothing else to say. What do I got to say? By the way, you said you were going to watch that doc. Did you watch it?
I not only watched it, I love it. I like Rodgers. I'm a Rodgers fan. I listened to I listened to the Audible version of the book. I watched the Enigma stuff.
Did you learn anything new?
I mean, not much, because I think if you did you read the book, the Ian O'Connor book? You learned a lot there. I mean, there were some interesting things there. Yeah, I mean, I think it's sad with it. What?
You learn a little.
I think the book taught me more than this, but this you learn a little bit, and you see some insight really about the rehab and trying to get back with the Jets and the season that went awry. You more that than anything else. Some of the stuff with his family, but like I said, that's been out there now in that book, so I didn't learn a ton from it.
Would you recommend it to people?
Yeah, I think it's a must watch. If you because if you cover Rodgers in any aspect, you are getting some insight to it. Like the idea that he wouldn't be a good mentor is foolish to me. Now, there are going to be some people, and maybe you're one of them, Jimmy, and you're preconceived. You have your thoughts about Rodgers, and that's it. So you're going to watch him like, yeah, BS, or I don't like that, or he's going for attention. And then maybe I see it a different way. But I do think that if you're covering him or care about Rodgers at all, it's a fun watch, easy watch.
So, what's interesting? I feel like, now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not paying attention to the right people. I feel like I didn't hear much at all about that doc. Like, I feel like it came and went. I didn't see a ton of like, you got to, even bad. I didn't see any like, oh, this guy's whacked out of his, like, I didn't see, like, I don't know, maybe that it's just the Aaron Rodgers fatigue factor and people aren't interested in him because, he's tiring. But like, I would have thought there'd be more buzz, pro or con, but it didn't seem like there was for it,
Yeah,
which is
yeah, because
weird.
I think the whole point of it was supposed to be about like his big return or
Right,
transition to the Jets. Then he got
right.
hurt, so then it was a build up. The most interesting stuff was like the actual they take you behind the scenes to the ayahuasca, whatever the hell it's called, retreat. So you could see some of that. Just like it's a look of something that we haven't seen before.
Right.
But
Yeah,
anyway, yeah.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, I guess take out if you take out all the personal stuff with Rodgers, it's gonna be hard to sell a doc about a guy whose team is what do they have? 3 wins, 4 wins, five
That's the
wins?
problem.
What
4 wins,
right.
I think. Yeah.
Right. That's right. It's like, you know. All right. Um I just did he answer questions in the doc?
About what? You have anything specifically?
Like I would like my if I get an interview, my first question would be like, I just want to be clear about something. You said you were 90% retired. You locked yourself in a house for 3 days, and then you said you want to play for the Jets, who's the most embarrassing franchise in all of sports. Like are we like how am I supposed to take someone seriously when that's sort of the what they did? But
He did go a little bit into that. There was a lot on the vaccine stuff, and he kind of
yeah,
clarified where he was coming.
who
I'm
cares
just saying
about
it.
that at this point?
These are the things that they got into. There was a little bit on the family, Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
thought it was good.
I don't even want to get into like that. I don't like that's too like personal. Like I don't want to, because we're never going to know that full story.
Right.
Like they have their side, he has his side, and like who knows what the truth is. And I mean, I don't know. Yeah. All right, Matt, Matt Man fan, 1 star.
Mm.
Now this is a problem. Everyone else, yeah, 4 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, 4 stars. This bastard left 1 star. All right. Wow. The year in review podcast was disappointing and bad. You did not do much on the most important things in sports from the past year, especially the new NBA media rights deal. I missed hearing Sal's segment this week. It should always be on every episode. So clearly, this is your burner.
I like this guy. Yeah.
Okay. So you like this guy. So we didn't hit on the biggest sports deal of the year, like the NBA media. The first 15 minutes of the podcast is me about the NBA rights deal. I literally said, we're here to talk about the biggest stories of 2024. And I said to Schrager and Perloff, the biggest sports media story of the year by far was the NBA ditching TNT, going to Amazon and NBC and inside the NBA. So that review is nothing but a big bag of horse shit. All right.
Thanks,
Last one.
Mom.
Yeah, seriously. Whoever in Sal's camp left that, at least get your facts straight. Just say I love Sal. I mean,
Yeah.
All right,
By the
SG
way,
Murphy.
can we take a week off? I mean, it was Christmas. It wasn't like we purposely planned it. It just.
Well, I would take the review seriously if I didn't talk about the NBA rights deal, but it literally was the first thing that we discussed. So whoever left that for you did a terrible job. All right. SG Murphy, last one here. Great pod. I thought the interviews with Buck and Nance and Romo were really good. I have another question for Sal. He seems to be the only sports radio guy that doesn't like sports. He doesn't seem to want to watch any sports. I don't get that. Also, you didn't talk about Rodgers and his nonsense vaccine defense. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I don't want to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the vaccine. It's 2024. Like, I can't deal with this. He said he was immunized. He didn't get the vaccine, period, end of story. Like, who cares? All right. But as for the other part, you don't like sports.
Well, yeah, I don't know where you're getting that from. Like, I'm assuming this is coming from me saying I don't want to watch the NFL on Christmas. Like, and I told you, as a fan, I can't help but want to watch it. It's too much. You have to remember when it becomes work. And how about this? Why don't you try watching the Jets and Giants every week for the next 10 years, assuming that these teams continue their trajectory of sucking. So by week 5, when the teams are dead, 2 teams in one town dead, what are you supposed to do? I watch around the league. I love the NFL. Jimmy knows, so it's not like I don't want to watch sports. College football is just too much because of the schedule with getting married, and I don't love the sport the way that it's become. The game itself, sure, but the NILs and the transfers and all this stuff.
I think what's going on here is people outside of New York who listen to the pod don't understand that here in New York on WFAN, Nobody does college football. It's baseball year round. It's Jets, Giants. It's Knicks. A little bit of like it's not just Sal. Like if you put on the fan at any point, there's not much college football discussion. It's a localized station where Sal works. So if you're outside of New York, you may not grasp that concept, especially if you're somewhere where college football is a hotbed and people talk about college football. I don't, we've had a great year, and those reviews, we didn't end it like on a high note. Like it's a very sour, ending there. I don't like it. Usually the reviews are really nice. We've had a great year, and then those were like, a lie about me on the podcast from last week. We got Sal doesn't like sports. We got Aaron Rodgers and the stupid vaccine. Like, it wasn't great. All right, so let me ask you this. This past Sunday, did you watch like all of Jets, Bills, and Giants, Colts?
I had a very good gambling Sunday, so it was nice. But I had the four box on,
Right.
Bills, Jets, and I had the Bills, so I was paying attention to that. I had some props in the Giants, Colts just to keep me interested. That hit, so I was paying attention to that a little bit. Bucks and Panthers, and then just whatever the fourth game was that they put on was Titans, Jaguars. So I watched those games, and then I watched the Sunday night game, Falcons and Washington.
All right, so this Sunday, last week of the season, Giants Eagles are at 1 o'clock, and you've got the Jets Dolphins at 4:25. You will watch both of those games.
I'll have them on. I mean, it's just the games don't mean anything. So it really depends on, like I told my daughter, right? Daddy, let's go daddy's bet. So wherever I'm betting or the picks that I make, that's what I'm rooting for. What are the games at one though? Do the games at one, any of them matter? No, right?
I don't think anything matters except that Sunday night game. I mean, they matter for seating, but I'm not getting it. Like seating, there's seating issues.
Well, no, the 4 o'clocks matter for potential. If Denver loses,
right.
Then potentially you could get Miami or Cincinnati in. But those are all 4 o'clock.
But I'm very bitter about that, so I don't really even want. Like, I'm very, very, very bitter.
Why?
Because as an NFL fan, I want to see the Bengals in the playoffs.
Me too.
I don't want to see the Broncos, and the last team I want to see is the Dolphins. I don't want to see them. I want to see Joe Burrow and his greatness in the playoffs, but it doesn't sound like it's going to happen because the Chiefs supposedly aren't going to play anyone. I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, but you never know. Denver's not great anyway. I mean,
right, but anyway. Even if the Chiefs beat Denver, if the Dolphins beat the Jets, then they get in over the Bengals.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So that sucks. Now,
one hope I'm so bummed out. It's not even funny.
One hope there is Rodgers will be motivated. Miami's not that good. Tua might still be banged up. I haven't checked the latest with that.
Well, was he motivated last week? I mean,
no. Well, I mean, they played the Bills.
I can't sit there and count on the Jets.
No, but true. But the Dolphins are not the Bills. Now, wait. All those games though are at 4.
You have that Bengals. Schedule? The Bengals play Saturday night against the Steelers.
Oh, okay.
All right. Quickly before we go here.
Yeah.
Super Bowl odds for the winner. Chiefs plus 350, Lions plus 400, Bills plus 600, Ravens plus 700, Eagles plus 750, Vikings plus 800. Everyone else is more than that. Chiefs plus 350, Lions plus 400, Bills plus 600, Ravens plus 700, Eagles plus 750, Vikings plus 800. Or do you like someone else from the field? This is Super Bowl winner.
I would say if I had to pick one, I'd probably go Ravens. I would go Ravens or Eagles.
Ravens plus 700, Eagles plus 750.
Yeah, probably Ravens. Now, I get sucked in again. I know it, and the Chiefs do it every postseason. I would bet. I think the Ravens started to get hot at the right time. I would bet on Lamar and Harbaugh. As a matter of fact, if those are the odds on my side, I am going to bet that because I think 7-1 is a great price right now.
Here's just to get back to what we were discussing before. The odds to make the playoffs in the AFC, that last slot in the AFC,
yeah.
The Bengals are plus 1,100.
Yeah, there's basically no
shot.
The
Dolphins are plus 600, and the Broncos are minus 550.
Yeah, I mean, crazier things have happened, though.
The Super Bowl, I think the Vikings plus 800 is a great bet for this reason. So the favorite is the Lions at plus 400. Their defense is so banged up. So banged up.
Plus an easier path to get there.
So then you just got to get through the Eagles at plus 750. I think the Vikings are better than the Eagles. I'm on the Viking bandwagon.
I don't like the Eagles, but I mean, they have just been a machine.
But that value at plus 800 for the Vikings?
Yeah, I'd go. I could see that, especially your logic with going through the NFC. It's just a
I should.
weaker.
Well, here's what I would bet. I wouldn't bet them to win the Super Bowl. I would bet them to make the Super Bowl. Because I think the Bills
But then it's probably
or the
going to be like 4
Ravens
to
or the
1.
Chiefs would yeah, that's a problem.
All the games at 1. The only games that matter at 1. I'm just looking over the slate here. So the Bengals could be eliminated Saturday. Falcons and the Bucks games. Falcons, Panthers, Bucks, Saints. Because if the Bucks lose and Atlanta wins, Atlanta's in. If the Bucks win, they're in. As far as winning the South. Outside of that, I don't think any other game at 1
No,
matters.
it's all atrocious this week.
And this is week 18. And then at 4 o'clock, yeah. I mean, the Broncos game is going to mean something. Potentially the Miami Jets game. And then just the Sunday night. This is a waste of a weekend, really.
It's not great. It's not great.
Sunday night, that's it. All the money on Sunday night is going to be an awesome game.
Yeah, it should be. All right, Sal, appreciate all your hard work on the pod over the year. It's been a good year for the pod. I got to say, we've had a good time doing it. And Happy New Year. We'll see you next week.
All right. Happy New Year, everybody. Looking forward to it.
Easy. All right. All right. My many, many thanks to Sal Licata. My thanks to you for listening. Hope you guys had a great new year. Wish you nothing but the best health and happiness for 2025. Appreciate all the support over this year and the past years with this pod, my column, everything. You guys are the best. Really appreciate you guys listening. And again, if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. Check out past episodes. Did a big year-end extravaganza pod, little 2024 year in review last week with Peter Schrager and Andrew Perloff. So make sure you give that a listen. All right. That wraps it up. We'll see you next week. Stay safe and take care.